Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today is going to be something very different. I'm going to do a second crack at certain parts of the Lumineth Shrine that I did before. There's some things I did on the previous one that I thought I could do better or I could try, and I wanted a round two. And the first one sold so well, proving that people hate painting Lumineth Realm Lords. And I wanted to try it again and see how it works. Now I fully assembled the model, and the first thing I wanted another crack at was the mold line or the meeting line for the giant rocks. It's very visible, and on the first version of the model it was very visible. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try something I heard about with milliput and isopropyl alcohol. I'm supposed to create like some sort of like filler that is really good and that you can sand and smooth off. Now, however, how I film these videos is normally I show you guys if I'm doing a bunch of models or towards the end, I normally show you the stuff when I like get it down normally. However, by the end of it, I could not get the alcohol to work well. I could not mix the alcohol with the milliput to make it into a slurry that I could fill in. I just couldn't do it. It didn't seem to work. And when I applied the milliput was very soft compared to green putty. When I applied in the cracks and then I used alcohol, it sort of like melted it away a little, but not enough to be in a slurry. And so then in the end, I realized that the alcohol is not necessary and just use water. So with thin bands of the milliput, I just place it where the cracks are, and I use my finger and water, and I basically sand it smooth, and the milliput melts away pretty well, and it leaves relatively a thick spot in some areas. It's a give or take, but it blends in much better than green putty, and it's much softer than green putty, and so it's a little better. Now, priming will be the ultimate test. With Bright Touch General Purpose Gray Car Primer, I then prime the whole model, and we'll see how it goes. And in the end, it looks like the part, you can clearly tell where the milliput is because it looks like puffy compared to the sharp, jagged rocks, and there's some spots that I missed. Oh well. Now with Baharoth Blue, Ulthuan Grey, Temple Guard Blue, and White Scar, we're going to paint the water. I wanted another crack at this. So we're going to start off with a base layer of Baharoth Blue this time. And then with the airbrush, I'm going to take that and I'm going to airbrush at a high angle to get the edges of the water falling down. And I'm going to spray it into like around a third to half of the water up top. I then dry brush the Ulthuan Grey directly onto the foamy parts, as well as the foamy parts onto the falling waterfalls. Then I took the Temple Guard Blue, the darker blue, and then I airbrushed it onto the edges of where the Baharoth Blue is. On the shrine, towards where the stone is, or the stone plates, as well as on the center of the pool on the bottom. And then I continued dry brushing with Ulthuan Grey just to make sure there was no real bad spillover from the airbrushing, all the white foam so that it'll pick out the edges, on the pool on top so that the little waves will get picked out, as well as the water falling so that the more raised areas will be picked out as well. And then with White Scar White, diluted a lot with water. We want it thin to fill in the spots here. Basically where the water crescents or like bubbles on this thing, we just want to apply it in taps around it, since it's thin enough, and it'll basically just smooth out the colors here. We don't want it being so thick that it looks like blocks of white. We want it to be a bit transparent so it blends in with the area, but since that area is also very white, it'll smooth things out and will blend naturally around the area. And now with watered down Baharoth Blue, like 1 part Baharoth to like 1 to 2 parts water, we're going to paint basically, we're going to fill in the water part. Basically 50% to 75% of each of these little waves or spots we will fill in. It's hard to describe it, but we'll basically cover a good portion of the waterfall falling down with this. And then with Temple Guard Blue, watered down with 1 to 2 parts water, we are going to apply it into the last quarter to third of the parts of the waterfall of these little waves falling down. Now it looks okay. Now you'll notice that the waterfalls, it isn't transitioning perfectly between the colors, but that's going to be fine because in the end it'll have a gloss varnish and it'll make it a little hard to notice that specific detail, so no real problem there. And then I'm going to take a white ink and I'm going to airbrush the last little bit, so the pools on the bottom where the water hits the most will have this pure white, and the very bottoms of the waterfall and the edge of the waterfall up top where the water's falling will have this sprayed around. With Eshin Gray, Dawnstone, and Administrative Gray, I wanted another crack at these stones here. So we're going to start with Eshin Gray. The idea is to have a darker paint that's in the cracks. Wasn't dark enough, so with Agrax Earthshade we fill in all the cracks and the stones around. And then with Dawnstone we overbrush over all these stones. Then take Agrax Earthshade again, water down with water 1:1, and I just applied everywhere. It just seems the stones now lack color now that they've been overbrushed. And then with Administrative Gray, I'm going to dry brush heavily all over it. I'm going to do up and down, back and forth, and lots of circles, circular motions to, well, dry brush it well. Well, compared to the first time I did this stone looks more rough. But, oh well, it's a different style, but I don't think I did any better than the previous time. It's just the stone looks more rough. Alright, as I'm painting the rest of the model, these things happen. Because there's dry brushing and applying some wet paint on some sharp edges, the brush naturally flicks. And paint gets into the airbrushed water. And it's really bad on the top side. So basically what I do is, what I should have done was taped all the water, filled the major parts with tape and the very edges with a little bit of putty. And instead I have this problem now. So I tape up the top, and because I'm going to re-airbrush the top, I'm not going to show that, but for the bottom one what I'm going to do is I'm going to take very watered down versions of each of the colors of paint and then just apply them in dots onto the area and hope they blend in well enough. And they kind of do. Now with Elmer's School Glue Gel and some Games Workshop green, grass, the reason why I'm choosing them is because they have a very rich green, or I don't know, I bought this grass thing like 12 years ago, so how do I don't know if they even sell this anymore, but this is basically a very rich green color, the richest I had, so I thought, you know, that'll fit. And so in the model there are these spots on the shrine where you're supposed to paint in dirt and stuff in the nooks and crannies and the rocks. I was like, screw that. I'm just going to apply glue in and then just throw in grass there. And so I'll add this as well, grass on the sides and around the pools and stuff. Now that everything has been finished, varnished, and everything like that, I'm going to take Iron Breaker, Liberator Gold, and Retributor Armor, and one thing I wanted to fix is the symbol in the center. I did it in reverse. The highlights was in the center and the edges were dark, so this time I'm going to fix that. So I'm going to actually mix 3 parts Iron Breaker to 1 part Liberator, and it's going to create like a warm silver, and then I'm basically going to paint out the entire symbol here with that. And then with Liberator Gold, I'm going to paint the entire symbol again, except I'm just going to leave a little sliver of the silver color on the edges. I'm pretty much reverse highlighting. And then with Retributor Gold and a very thin brush, we're going to paint a very thin line throughout the entire symbol. Alright, a quick short where I focus on the things that I thought I could do better this time around. I should have taped up the water though when I did this time, since I did it first, basically on the model. That was trouble. The water, honestly, it's a very skill-based thing. Even if you use like the right colors and paints and stuff, I feel like it's very particular and you have to like do it very slow and focused to get the blending right, get the focus right. And as far as the rest, I mean, it's a mixed bag. The mold lines are still super irritating on this. I mean, you can see them if you focus on them, but for the most part, they are blocked in with the milliput. The milliput, it's easier to work with than green putty. It blends in well if you like smooth it with your fingers and stuff, or a rubber brush if you have that. And yeah. Alright, comment if you want to comment, like the video if you like the video, share if you want to share it, like and dislike it if you want to do that, and Dominion will be next. I finally have the box set. Bye.